Great. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. It's a real pleasure to introduce Captain Hoff, Stephen Hoffman. We call him Captain Hoff in Silicon Valley because he's the captain of Founders Space, and he's known for bringing people together at his facility, Founders Space, great entrepreneurs, startups, investors, and other stakeholders in Silicon Valley, and for connecting people and creating that ecosystem that Silicon Valley is known for collaboration and creativity. And he's out with a new book. And it seems like he's gone back to his roots on this one because it's called Surviving a Startup. So he's survived a bunch of startups in Silicon Valley and helped a lot of startups start and grow and thrive. And so, Captain Hoff, welcome, and tell us a bit about yourself and why surviving a startup, why now?
It is great to be here. Thank you, Mark, and thank you, everybody, for being here. I have been doing startups almost my entire life. So, like so many entrepreneurs out there, it's sort of an addiction. You can't help but do it, no matter what the odds. And the odds are pretty tough. 9 out of 10 startups fail. And when you're an entrepreneur, you usually put everything on the line, all your resources, your money, a lot of times your relationships. It's very, very tough. So, I've been through 3 venture-funded startups here in Silicon Valley, where I am now. I did 2 bootstrap startups, which is another way to do them. And I've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs all around the world. So I love traveling. I noticed you're from all over. The audience is from everywhere. And I actually plan, as soon as this pandemic is over, to be permanently on the road. So I will be working with our partners. So right now, Founders Space has over 50 partners in 22 countries. So I will be in Mexico, in Latin America, in Europe, in Canada, and Asia, bouncing around wherever there are opportunities. So hopefully I will get to meet many of you in person someday in the not too distant future.
So yes, Founders Space has truly become worldwide, and we would love to expound on that later. Yeah, please continue. The book, Surviving a Startup. How did that come about?
It basically came out of my personal experience and the experience of working with so many entrepreneurs, really amazing entrepreneurs who had to overcome incredible obstacles. And the book, when you go through the book, it covers, I put in all the knowledge I had. It was a complete brain dump for like 20 years of doing these startups, of everything I learned, and all the tips, like on the psychology of venture capitalists, the structure of venture capital firms, how you have to position your startup in the right way to go about launching your company, what you need to do in what order, and really important things like guerrilla marketing, how you scale a business. So you name it, it's in there. And it's based on real tangible experiences. And I tried to make everything useful. So it's not a book about theory, it's a book about practice. If you're a practicing entrepreneur and you are struggling, or even if you just want to do better, that's who it's for.
Reading through the book was amazing, and it reads like I'm sitting down with Captain Hoff at a Silicon Valley bar, and he's just telling me straight, this is how you need to think about it. This is how you need to focus on your problem, whether you're trying to raise some angel investment capital, or whether you're just trying to figure out your idea, or whether you're asking yourself if you should even start a company, start a startup. It's just like, it feels so casual and so impactful. Every sentence is just filled with these decades of knowledge and failures and successes and seeing everything. And it's just, this is how you approach it. And I think that's what you were attempting with this one, right? Just straight to the point. This is how to think about it, right?
When I read a book, there are 2 types of books. There's ones I read for entertainment, and I just want them to tell me a story. I don't care how much information I get out of it, how much actionable information. And then there are others where I want information. Like I need to learn, and I want to do it quickly and as efficiently as possible. So that's what I wrote. And I'm also I'm also very, probably, Mark, I am very passionate. So I think that comes through in my writing. I love working with entrepreneurs. For me, it's like, it's the best thing ever because, while I'm teaching entrepreneurs, I'm also learning about each of their individual struggles and each of their problems that they're facing. And a lot of these entrepreneurs come up with solutions I would have never thought of myself.
Yeah, I mean, the kind of innovation that you see in Silicon Valley and people from around the world go to Silicon Valley because they have an idea, they have a dream, and they're looking for places like Founder Space to realize that. And now Founder Space has met them where they are around the world. Real quick, where are you where are you launching Founder Space at this time? Different Founder
Oh,
Space
so
facilities.
yeah, so we have our Silicon Valley Founder Space.
Uh-huh.
It is not operational right now because of COVID. So
Okay.
we are waiting for it to open up, but I just got my vaccine. So I'm about to hit the road again. Um,
Okay.
but we have a lot actually of incubators. We have 6 across China in major cities like Hangzhou, Shenzhen, Xi'an, Nanjing, uh, places like that. So, and then we do a lot of work with like the South Korean government. We do a lot of work in Taiwan. I was in Europe several times last year, great experience. And and I was also in Chile and other countries. So it's really global. And a lot of it depends where, who I meet. Like if I meet you and then we start something, then we plan something together, we could, it just naturally occurs.
Excellent. Excellent. So let's get into surviving a startup. And you open the book with it is not a rah cheerleader, you must start a startup now. That is not how you open the book. And I think it gives a lot of credibility to what you're saying because Captain Hoff does not come across as someone who's just saying start a startup. Whatever you do, you must start a startup now. It's the time that he's what he does is he takes a very realistic and pragmatic approach and in fact spends a good part of the book early on saying you got to rethink this. If you want to start a startup, don't think it's going to be easy. Don't think you can go in like one step, one toe into the water here. So tell me about why you opened it like that, and really the weight of the decision. If you're going to start a startup, it's not an easy road, and it's not for most people. Correct?
Correct. You have to be a certain type of person. And I'll give you what I think are the criteria for being a startup. And, a lot of us, we are poor judges of ourselves. Like we want to believe we're one type of person, but we're actually another. And it's just a fact of life. And a lot of times we hit our head against a wall over and over trying to be something we aren't. I think this will probably resonate with a lot of people out there. I've had my dreams that I was good at something and I just wasn't good at that. That wasn't going to be who I was, no matter how hard I tried. So it's like people are, there's a big question out there. Are people born entrepreneurs or can they be made entrepreneurs? And I think like all these big questions, it's not black and white. Like it's a continuum. Like there's some people who like, no matter what, they were cut out to be an entrepreneur. They didn't have to like do anything. Like they were, selling stuff from the time they were 3 years old, and convincing people to do stuff. And their whole life they've been, doing this. And then there are other people who might have been better off as an academic. They might have been better off in a big corporation. They might have been better off in a research lab. They're extremely smart, so there's no doubt about that. But it's a different skill set. So at the beginning, I want people to take a deep look into who they are and ask yourself, one, really the first thing is, do you have a high tolerance for stress? Because being an entrepreneur comes with a lot of stress. And if you join somebody else's company, even if it's a startup, that's a different thing because it's on their shoulders. I mean, you might have stress working for them, but you could quit the job. It's not like you took a lot of other people's money, maybe family and friends' money and your own life savings and put it into it. It's a job for you, so you could quit. And the stress never gets as high as when everything is on the line for you. So that's a fundamental question. Another fundamental question is, do you like the role, for example, of being a CEO? Because being a CEO may not play to your talents. It's not that you can't learn a lot of those skills, but some people really enjoy being a CEO, and other people, it's a grind. like it's just pressure, and people are coming at you all the time with their problems. I mean, there's never a dull moment. If your startup is struggling with no money, you have a huge amount of headaches, right? Because like every day you're just trying to get through it with the cash you have. As soon as you get a lot of money, you think, oh my God, and I felt this way, all our prayers are answered, it's going to be smooth sailing. And then there's a whole new set of problems. You have investors, they want you to scale, that you have more people you're bringing on, and it's just a whole nother, you know, wave of things you have to deal with. So in the book, you know, the qualities I like to see in a CEO, and like I said before, it's some people weren't natural entrepreneurs, but they are extremely determined, right? And they are very self-reflective, and they can really understand where they're weak and they're strong, and they can bring on other team members who complement what they lack. Like if they're not very good at detail oriented, but they're good big picture idea, they bring on detail oriented people, you know, to put together all the details and back up what they're saying. You know, they bring on, if they're not a good salesperson, they might bring on somebody who can really, really sell. But when I look at a CEO, I'll tell you the three most important traits I tend to gravitate towards.
Okay,
So
great.
number one, leadership ability. Like, you know, in high school or grade school, were you the type to be a leader? Now, a lot of people weren't, right? They were introverts, they were shy, they were awkward, you know, maybe they didn't like being, you know, in the forefront. Does that mean they cannot be a successful entrepreneur? No, but they're going to have to work on it because you could change yourself, but you're going to have to actually really want to change and learn how to do this. And just like you could become better at any sport, you don't become a great basketball player just by being born with all the genetics. You actually have to go and shoot, right? And if you're a mediocre basketball player, you can get pretty good. Especially if you're on a great team, you can be, you can still win if you build a great team. So that's why I say leadership is so important, because you never build a company alone, a big company, right? You can build a one-person business alone, but that's not going to be the next Google, that's for sure, or nothing, not even close, you know? It won't even be a restaurant. So the bottom line is you really, essential trait is to be able to identify great people, know who you need, and bring them on the team, sometimes with nothing more than a promise of some shares that may be worth something someday. And these are the type of people who could be out there getting great jobs. Like they could be working for Google, they could be working for Microsoft, but no, you're asking them to give up all that security, all that, you know, the money and respect to come work for your no-name startup to get some worthless shares because it's the beginning. That's what you're asking.
Work with the startup, but also stick it out when time gets a little bit more difficult, right? So if someone, your team has to be fully vested, even if they're not getting that big salary because you're just starting out, and they could turn around and take on another project. So what's going to keep them on your team, even when, you know, the work gets really into the grind mode? And that's, wow, that's got to be one of the top difficulties for someone starting a company, right?
You nailed it.
Finding
So
that team.
leadership isn't just about getting them to sign up. It's about keeping them, keeping them motivated when everything, you know, when the roof falls in on your company, when, you know, the investor that said that they were going to give you all the money at the 11th hour, happened to me, walks away.
Sure.
And says, I changed my mind. You know, I found another startup that I like, or, you know, there's something about your company I'm just not comfortable with. And that happens all the time. Then you go back to your team and you say, hi guys, you know, I said we were going to start paying you now, but can you work for another few months, maybe longer, for free? So that type of, and, you know, throughout the whole thing, you know, just not alienating people, knowing how to manage people. A lot of this you can learn, but you have to be committed to doing so. And one thing I always say that when here's just a small tip, you know, a lot of people join you because they think, well, you're going to be the next unicorn. You're going to be the next TikTok that explodes, or, you know, Clubhouse. And I'm going to go along for the ride and it's going to be wonderful. But it's almost never that easy. You know, we all read about the cases that just go overnight. We never read about the thousands and thousands that, you know, struggle along for a long time, sometimes never getting there. But I always say, if the people you're bringing on at the beginning won't commit to you, don't commit to them. Commitment. They need to really take this company as their own, as their baby. And part of that commitment is your leadership, learning how to manage people, learning how to give them responsibility, learning how to let them do what they do best. Because you have to kind of earn commitment. You can't just get it. Like people won't give it to you for no reason. You have to set up an environment where they feel empowered. So that's the thing. Let me
So
go
I'm
on to
sure a
number
lot
two.
of people.
Go ahead.
Oh no, please. Let's a quick
No,
question on
I
that
like,
because I'm sure a
yeah.
lot of people are thinking, all right, so I have a team. They've agreed to work for me for a couple of months because they're also inspired about this. But okay, a couple months have passed, and yeah, we need to keep working on this. What are the kind of considerations you advise entrepreneurs when they're thinking, hey, I'm going to go to friends and family and do a micro raise here to keep this shop going. I'm going to take out my credit card and try to put some of my own capital into this. I really want to see this going, but I also don't want to sink my finances and the finances of my friends and family. What are the sorts of considerations they have at that point?
These are brutal decisions. And this is where
Okay.
the stress comes in because, you could go borrow money from Aunt Jenny, right? Who probably knows very little about startups, but she has her life savings and you're her niece or nephew and Aunt Jenny wants to help you. So Aunt Jenny may want to get rich because she's read all these incredible things about these mythical unicorns and she's sure you're going to be the next one. Do you take Aunt Jenny's money? So many successful startup founders only got going because of friends and relatives, because of their money. But so many others lost their friends and relatives' money. And you have to ask yourself, when your company is crumbling right around you, and it happens 9 out of 10 times, if it's crumbling around you, do you, at that emotionally, difficult time for you where you feel like you can't handle anymore, you want to lean on your friends and relatives. But if you've taken money from them, in the back of their mind, even if they're not saying it, you're losing their money. You're coming to them and crying on their shoulder for losing their money, So, and people, money's a tricky thing. It can really upset people. So different people take losses of money different ways. So I have a friend I was just talking to like 2 days ago, and he was like, yeah, I went into this real estate deal with my wife's parents, and oh my God, it has just become a nightmare because they don't understand what's going on, and the real estate deal isn't working out, and everybody's losing money. It can be so painful. It can break up families. And you can lose really dear friends right when you need them most. And so my advice to you is don't do it if you don't have to, right? Literally, look, if you can't get, first of all, this is my advice. Don't take it out on your credit card. Those interest rates are crazy high, or some other, payday loan scheme or whatever, a crazy way you can get money. Do this. Promise me you'll do this. If you don't have a lot of money and you aren't famous like Elon Musk and can just raise money like by by opening your arms, everybody will flood you with as much money as you need.
Right.
Then for your first startup, pick an idea you could do with sweat equity. Pick an idea you could do eating rice and beans if you have to and living in a tent, but you can do with an internet connection, of course. But you pick an idea that you could do with yourself and that great group of people you surround yourself with who are all committed to working through this problem and making it a reality, solving it. So that is the best way to succeed. And if you can't do that, then at a certain point, you should be able to raise money from investors, knowledgeable investors. And if your friends and relatives feel like they really want a share of your company, don't sell it to them, give it to them. Give them a small stake. If it fails, they'll feel sorry for you, right? And if it succeeds, they get a
See, that's great
nice...
advice. That's great advice. I like that a lot. Give them a bit of equity. Hey, friends and family, if you feel like you want to raise in that way from friends and family, which, that's up to you. As Captain Hoff mentioned, there's a lot of inherent risks with that, but give them a bit of equity. Equity means part of the company, right? So, and then they feel like they're really part of it, and they're going to ride the wave with you. That's great advice. I like that a lot. Yeah. So we got off on a tangent there. You said number 2 is.
Oh, number 2, the second skill you need, and I think this one is obvious, you need this perseverance. you need stamina, you need grit, you need to be able to stick with it when, no matter what. So every startup I've done, every single one, there was a point where I was on the floor in hopeless despair. Like I thought, this will never go. This, I'll never raise the money. Nothing will happen, but you have to pick yourself up. Like the real entrepreneurs are the ones who pick themselves up and keep going. Even when your company hits a dead end, your product isn't working. They're the really great entrepreneurs say, okay, we're starting over. Like we're scrapping that whole thing. It doesn't matter that we spent a year working on it and poured everything into it. It's not working and we have to try again. And so that's the second one. And I can give you the third and final one, although there are many other traits that make a great entrepreneur. But the third and final one is really a deep curiosity about the world and an ability to go deep on things, not shallow, because all the other competitors you have out there, they know what everybody knows. If it's out there, everybody knows it. In order to succeed, in order to break through as a young company, you have to push beyond where everybody else is. You have to go really deep on your subject, start exploring new technologies, figure out a new piece of the puzzle, a way to do things that people haven't done before. Unless you do this, you're wasting your time. You're either going to have, especially if you're going to venture capitalists, you're going to have a small business, or if you're super lucky, over a long period of time, it could grow into a medium-sized business. But it's not going to be the type that venture capitalists want to fund. It's going to be too slow growth or it won't grow at all. So that is the third piece of the puzzle.
Right. That's great. That's great. And again, anyone can post their questions, and Carmen will go through them, and we'll try to get to those toward the end. So feel free to send your questions to Carmen. There's a few set quotes from the book that really stood out to me. So I'm going to read them, and I want to get your expounding on them. I'll jump into this one. As an entrepreneur, you only have one job, and that is to identify an unmet demand and create a product that fills that need. Savvy entrepreneurs don't focus on developing new, unproven products. Instead, they focus on discovering demand. This sounds simple, but you would be surprised at how much time entrepreneurs spend building products nobody wants, instead of using that time to find out what's really needed. If there's one thing I want you to remember, it's that demand is king. It makes the rules and you must obey them. So talk a bit about demand, because you clearly highlight it here as just this key consideration that all startup entrepreneurs need to be thinking about.
Yeah, so I will use a metaphor. It's like a oil wildcatter. When you're out drilling for new oil wells? This is the entrepreneur. And it doesn't matter if the entrepreneur builds the best drilling mechanism in the world and drills deeper than anybody else. If there's no oil down there, you're not going to make any money, right? Nothing's going to come out of the ground. So I always tell entrepreneurs, instead of spending all your time building the drilling device, in the oil rigs, go out there and look for where oil is. So look for where the demand is just so pent up that when you hit it, it explodes, right? That an explosion of demand is what you want to tap. That's how these unicorns get made. It's not necessarily that they have some amazing technology. It's not that they have some amazing patents. You see, all these companies, whether it's TikTok or Facebook or Twitter or even Uber, none of them, Dropbox, had amazing technology. I mean, the technology was readily available. But they took it was relatively new technology, but it was widely dispersed. And they basically took that and they applied it to solving a problem where there's a huge amount of pent-up demand. So I always say an entrepreneur's job is not necessarily, your first priority is not to build a great product. Because if you build a great product and you don't know if there's this huge explosion of demand, you've just wasted, you may have wasted your time. And it's not necessarily to raise money. Money doesn't create demand. Like, the best product in the world, the most creative new idea in the world, it's a great idea. It might be a very imaginative idea, but if it doesn't tap into a need out there, that idea it's nothing more than an idea. It's not a business. It's an idea versus a business. So many entrepreneurs get caught up in their ideas that they forget My real job is to go out there and hunt for demand. I'm a demand hunter. And when I find the demand, that's when I apply my creativity. That's when I apply the money. That's when everything works.
Yeah, so I can imagine when Captain Hoff hears from someone, "Hey, I have this great new idea." This is what's ticking in his brain, right? He's thinking, "All right, new idea, new technology," but I guess where he's really thinking is it meeting unmet demand? No matter how cool the new tech is, no matter what new technologies it's incorporating, no matter how great the team is, and they're all engineers from Stanford, but is it really going to hit the demand, right? That's the
Yeah, and
key,
so
perhaps the
as a
key
venture capitalist,
consideration.
I say, show me the demand. I get your idea, right? Show me the demand, because that's when venture capitalists give you the money. Like, that's when it's really easy to raise money.
Right. And you actually have another paragraph, and forgive me for reading it, but it just goes right on the same point, and I think it's really, really entertaining. So I'll skip much of the story, but one of your clients or someone at Founder Space had this interesting product, and you told him to go out and test it in the market and see how people felt about it. When he returned, he said that more than 90% of the potential customers he approached liked the product, and they wanted him to come back later when it was completed. Do you know what I told this eager young entrepreneur? I said that he had a serious problem. His product wasn't what they wanted. Customers weren't going to buy it, and his company was going to fail if he continued down this path. This is after he said 90% of the people liked it. Why would I say this? Am I a sadistic dream crusher? No. I try to be kind to people, but I'm not going to lie to them either. This idea won't work because I didn't hear the one thing I needed to hear. Not a single customer said, quote, "Oh my God, this is amazing. I love this product. Can I get it tomorrow? How much do you charge? Can I order it in advance?" If you don't hear words like this, then you have nothing. No one will tell you, no one will tell your product stinks to your face. They don't want to be rude. They'll just smile politely, say it's nice, and ask you to come back later. And that really sums it up, right? We don't just want, "Hey, it's gonna work, but how do I sign up?" And there's a difference there, right?
Huge difference, but a lot of times we have filters on because we love our product, right? We've fallen in love with it. So when somebody says they like it, like when somebody says, "Oh, I like your baby," of course, we're like, "Yes, our baby is the cutest, isn't it?" You know? And they might be really thinking, "What an ugly baby." You know? But they won't say that
Okay.
to you. Nobody will say
Yeah.
that. So you, the thing is, you have to take off your blinders and see your product through your customer's eyes. And I will tell you, all of us, do we buy good products? Usually not. Like, we buy the best product. Like, by best, I mean, it doesn't have to be the Rolls Royce of the world. It has to be the best for the money, right? The best product for the money. So when we look at a product, we're going to evaluate all the values it has, including the cost and utility and everything else. And if it's really great, we're going to say, "Oh my God, that's the product for me." You know, when you're on your phone, your smartphone, you'll download an app and you'll open it and you'll say, "Ah, that's pretty good." A week later, delete. You know, you don't want too many apps. You're only going to pick the very best one in each category. That means every other one dies, you know? And this is why good products aren't enough. You need a great product, and you need to hear from at least, 1 out of 5 of your potential customers that they absolutely love your product. If you don't get that reaction from 20%, it's going to be a really tough sell.
Right. They got to be calling you up, banging on your door. "How do I get this? Can I get the beta version? What can I do to sign up?" Right. Those are
Yeah,
the kinds of responses which tell you have demand.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be everybody. It just has to be enough people
Right.
that really want your product. Because if there are enough of them in the world, it's a big world out there. If it's a big market, 20% of a big market is a lot of dedicated customers.
And those would be your early adopters typically, right? Those super
Yes,
eager people.
yes.
They're gonna buy it early, try it out, allow you to pivot and grow from that.
They are the people who will switch from whatever they're using. Yeah. So everything out there, people are using something for, right, to get it done. And they're going to have to switch, and switching costs are high. People don't like to switch. We're all on Zoom right now. If somebody comes out with a product that's a little better than Zoom, are we going to switch? No way. It's too much hassle. Like, it has to be like exponentially better. Like, or offer something that Zoom just can't offer, and then we're going to try it out.
Great, great. So more amazing quotes, and it's like every sentence is quotable here. That this book has no fluff. It's a substantial book, and it's just every sentence is a kernel of knowledge. It's amazing. So here's one that I'll just pick out of the hat. Basically, if you haven't done it already, you should prioritize using your competitors' products daily. You need to become one of their power users. This is the only way to understand everything they're doing. It's not only important to look at the current crop of competitors, but also to look at past competitors. So this issue on analyzing your competition and understanding them, I love this. Become a power user of your competitors' products. It's not just enough to do a Google search and to see, oh yeah, there's someone else in my market. There's someone else doing something who's going to be my competitor. So tell us all about that.
Well, this is one of the many mistakes that I'm guilty of making, like so many entrepreneurs. And so many I work with do the same thing. I had to put it in the book. It's like, you're starting a company, you're enamored with what you're doing. You'll look up all the competitors. You may even log in, create an account, try their stuff, but that's not enough. Like, if you're going to really understand how to beat them in the marketplace, you have to understand all their flaws. Like, what about your competitors is just frustrating, and what have your competitors done right? What have they nailed? So you're going to want to copy the things they nail and fix the areas where there's a big deficit, where it's really painful for the customers or frustrating for the customers. That is how you win. And you can only do that if you're a power user. Also, you may discover that you can't do anything like better than your competitors. And at the very beginning, I tell people, like, get online, spend most of your time not building your product. It's using every other product out there that does something similar. And if you find that there's a product out there that's just great at it and you don't have anything better to offer, what are you doing? Like, what niche are you filling? What value are you providing your customer? You can figure out right away. You could save yourself months or years of your life from trailing somebody else who's already figured it out. So, and if you can't come up with any way to make that product better, in a short amount of time so you can leapfrog them, forget it. That's not how you win. So, taking the time with your competitors right up front, you can't spend too much time on your competitors' products. Not you and not your team. Your core team needs to be all over them.
Yeah, and what's going to be the first thing out of an investor's mouth? What are your competitors? And hey, isn't this competitor that I've already heard of? Aren't they doing something like that? Why do you think that you're going to be better than them? And you need to have a really good response as to why you are distinctly different and can win market that this particular competitor can't. And I guess you've seen a few times when that question was not properly answered, and that's pretty much end of the ball game right there, right?
I'm sure you have too, Mark.
A
Working
few
with so
times,
many.
yeah.
Yeah, because when they can't answer the question. And honestly, a lot of startups can't answer that question. They just show you a little graph, where they're here
Yeah,
and the competitors are here and they're so
yeah.
much better, but they can't answer it in detail.
Well, because this is really, it's not something that's intuitive, right? Oh, I need to be
Yeah.
spending all this time on my competitors' products. That's not what you're thinking typically when you're building anything, because you want to be building your own product, focusing on refining the features and so on. But this is really amazing advice. Spend time using and becoming a power user, really understanding the functionality of all your competitors, and that's going to give you your point of entry, your edge in the market, right?
Yes.
So here's an interesting point that you raise, and it's one that touches a chord for me and a lot of people that I work with, and I think it's probably one of really an unspoken thread that you get when people have a great idea for a product, and that's when and how should they share the idea with others. And I think it probably slows a lot of people down because they're concerned about it, and perhaps rightly so, or coming from a good place, thinking, I have this brilliant idea. I'm really concerned about who I should share it with and when, because I'd like to build it first, get it somewhere before I bring it out to the world. So you write, some other entrepreneur is bound to be thinking the same thing. Do you want that person to get all the credit for pioneering the way? If not, don't keep your idea a secret. Get in front of as many smart people as possible, as early as possible, and don't stop until you sell your company or go public. So what have you seen in Silicon Valley and around the world with this concern that entrepreneurs have, how much validity is there in that concern, and how should they think about this as they try to start their startup?
That's a great point to bring up, because almost every time I do a talk, if it's not addressed in the talk, this question gets asked by one of the entrepreneurs. Just yesterday, like I was doing a talk at our incubator, the founder space in Hangzhou, China, and one of the entrepreneurs asked exactly this question. They're like, what
Comes up all the time. Yep.
Every time, and you get it too. So, and it's a question I have dealt with personally. Like, I don't want to share my idea. It's too good. It's like, they're just going to copy it. It's so brilliant, But the problem is, if you don't share your idea, you never, it's just an idea. It's just in your head. You never learn what really works and what doesn't. And what makes great entrepreneurs is this, not their idea, not the idea they start with, but the speed at which they learn. So you want to focus on ramping up the amount of knowledge you are gaining faster than anybody else in your field. That's how you make a breakthrough. So more often than not, your initial idea is flawed or totally off base. Like, it's just not there. I can name so many startups, Groupon, Yelp, even Google, that had the wrong ideas, and YouTube all had the wrong ideas at the beginning, and they had to totally pivot to actually hitting an idea that people cared about. So, and these are just some, right, of big companies. So it happens over and over and over again. Now, here is my advice to all of you when you are out there, like, trying to figure it out with your idea. I'm blanking for a second.
Well, basically the point is, you have a great idea. Your concern is, well, look, I need to build this to some extent before I can share it with the world. And there's sort of this line you need to cross where you feel like, all right, now's the right time to share it. But Captain Hoff is kind of destroying all that and saying, look, you need to start sharing it with smart people immediately, because someone else is thinking about it. And it's not that your idea is likely off in some way. Better to gain as much knowledge as possible, shift it in the right way early on, and then go forward. And I just think it's just not how most people think about the problem. And it's an important shift, right?
Yeah. And I remembered what I wanted to say. So,
okay.
But the risk of somebody stealing your idea is this big. It's small, right? Because most people you meet with, they're busy doing whatever they're doing. If they're venture capitalists, they're venture capitalists. They are not about to start a startup, most of them, they like their job.
Yeah.
And if they're doing something else, they're doing it. And your friends, they're probably not going to rip off your idea. So it's this small. The risk of you failing because you fail to execute is huge, right? It's enormous. And it's enormous because you don't, at the beginning, if you're innovating, by definition, you don't know where you're going. And if you do not get the information you need, the learning you need to actually figure out how to really innovate in the right way, then you are going to fumble the ball and somebody else is going to pass you up. My advice is go out to as many people as you can. Go out to, don't worry about them stealing your idea. Go out to your customers. Go out to your network of advisors. Go out to venture capitalists. Caveat here. Do not go to a conference full of a room of potential competitors and lay out your entire plan, right? Give a talk about everything you're doing. That is not wise in the early days. And if you go to a venture capitalist, ask them, and venture capitalists will just tell you. They're not going to lie to you because their reputation's on the line. Just ask them, do you have a company in your portfolio that's similar to this? And give them, a 1 or 2 liner of what your company is. And they'll tell you, oh, that's similar. And then don't go talk to that venture capitalist. Find another one. There are plenty of out there. And if they don't, you can even look on their website. A lot of times it's posted, or Google, them and the investments they've made. And you can figure out what they've invested in. And then you're pretty safe because they're, most likely the venture capitalist isn't going to copy your idea. What they tend to do is, if you pitch them an idea and they're sitting on the board of another company, they're they suck in all your ideas, and if they're on the board of that company, they won't even know it, but they will those ideas will be in their head. So that's
I'm going to ask you a
Yeah.
follow up on this because it's an issue that I think slows a lot of people down, and you get this question all the time. So let's look at that scenario a little deeper, and let's say in that scenario the VC tells the board, hey, there's this startup that's thinking about doing this or that thing, adding a feature in this way. Is that a serious risk? Because whatever startup they're talking to probably has a few other things on their plate. Are they going to shift everything they're doing to try to beat someone who mentioned an idea? It seems like a pretty low possibility. So even
Yeah,
then, it's not a huge
that
risk,
even
right?
that, which I was saying was the highest risk, a startup, when you're on a board of directors and you're a startup founder, the board members are always throwing things at you, like they're random things sometimes that you don't want to deal with because, like you said, you have a full plate of what you're working on. So the chances are you're absolutely right. They probably will just ignore that. So there's a very small chance that you're going to get copied, but people do copy all the time. Facebook was a copy. All these things are copied. This is a natural part of our ecosystem. You can't defend yourself by worrying about copying. What you have to worry about is figuring out first the right direction to go. So at the beginning, you can't figure out the right direction. You may have an idea, but you need to get a lot of information and change your direction and change all the time to really nail it. Now, it's not the first company that launches a product that wins. It's the first company that launches a product that's right, that does it right. Those are the company that wins. So your goal is to figure out, not just to launch whatever your idea was, to figure it out the right way. And I want to give you just one example of this. There was an entrepreneur out there called Palmer Luckey. You probably heard of him. He was the founder of Oculus, the first VR company. He had an idea, right, for what VR could be. There were literally hundreds of other people in research labs, universities around the world, and companies working on similar technology. They were all working on this. He, in fact, didn't even invent it. His original software came from USC open source. So it was developed at USC. But all of these people, and a lot of them, either they were just focused on their research or they were keeping their idea secret. They're like, I'm going to perfect this. I'm not going to let anybody in the world. Palmer Luckey didn't care because he hadn't invested in anything in this. So he took the open source, he made a cool video, he posted it on Kickstarter, told everybody could copy his idea, right? Because he put it out there. But what happened? By putting it out into the world, he made his idea a reality where none of the other ones were. So first he got money from all these people. He made a cool video, of virtual reality. And then he got money from VCs, more money than he knew what to do with. And before he had even launched the product, Facebook bought them for billions of dollars. That is like, why did Palmer Luckey win? And all those people were much more knowledgeable, who might have spent decades working on VR technology. Why weren't they the ones? Well, because he was the one who took it into the world. Your job as a startup founder is to take your idea into the world, not to keep it secret. The first time you gain any traction, the first time anybody writes about you, your idea is going to be out there. If you put it up on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, it's out there. Don't worry about that. Worry about being the leader, being the thought leader, because the thought leader in a certain space, the one who's coming out and everybody knows, they gain a cachet and a momentum that's hard for others to beat.
Wow, so much wisdom, so much knowledge packed into this. Captain Hoff, thanks so much. We're going to go to questions shortly. What can people do to find out more about your book, get involved with Founder Space? Give us some hints here.
Oh, so I actually have a special offer for your members. So we're just launching Surviving a Founder Space, and surviving. I've had a long.
That's another challenge, I bet.
Yeah, my life has been crazy. I'm in the middle of a move, just so you know. So normally I'm more focused, but you'll have to deal with the scatterbrained Steve right now. Right now, if you pre-order the book, it's coming out from HarperCollins, and you go to founderspace.com/promo, PROMO. We will not only, founderspace.com/promo. If you order the book, we'll give you our full online startup program for free. Basically for free. You get it for free. And so if you like to hear me talk, then you will enjoy it. You'll enjoy the online program because
and let me just remind everyone that this is not, just anyone talking about startups. This is someone who's been in Silicon Valley, who's based in Silicon Valley and now worldwide, who's seen anything and everything, including, you know, companies become unicorns, you know, billion-dollar companies. So I'm sure his program, it's a series. And how is that online program? How is that run, the educational program?
Okay, so the program itself is in video format. So you get a series of videos that go into all the different topics things you need to know to be an entrepreneur. And then in addition to that, we give you a lot of material, a lot of different ideas from different people. So for 3 months, every day you're getting material, every single day. And then also we have an online startup kit that you gain access to with a lot of different resources, you know, from legal documents to all the kind of different, over the years, all the different like cool things that are available, we kind of compiled into one startup kit that you can go access.
Okay, so share it widely, everyone. You got the founderspace.com/promo. The link is there. It comes with a lot of amazing benefits as well. Captain Hoff, thanks so much. Great to join you. I'm gonna be invisible for a while now while other people ask questions.
Oh no,
We'll
you're
be in
going away.
touch.
Well, Mark,
I guess so. Yeah.
Mark, I want to thank you for your well-researched questions. It was great. You're a great interviewer. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Captain Hoff. We'll talk soon.